Hey everyone, it's Christina with My Confection Obsession, and today I'm going to be making a painted buttercream Paris silhouette cake. So I'm making this cake because I love Paris. I actually went the year after I graduated from college, and my husband hasn't taken me yet, and I'm hoping that this is the year that we get to go together. So I decided to make this cake kind of as like a hint to him. And I've also seen these silhouette cakes, and I knew that I really wanted to make one because I love how they turned out. So in front of me I have just a silhouette of Paris that I found online, and I just printed it in a Word document. And I played with the image to get it to the size that I'm gonna wanna use. I am using a 6-inch cake, so I wanted to make sure that it would fit. So I have this printed. I'm gonna go ahead and tape it down to my counter. So I taped this down so it won't move, and next what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be using some parchment paper to trace this silhouette. And parchment paper works nicely, obviously, because you can see through it. So I'm also going to tape this down. So after I have everything ready to go, what I'm doing is I'm just using a number 2 pencil, and I'm going to trace the entire silhouette. I have seen other techniques where people actually trace an image in pencil and then they press it against the cake to get the image onto the cake, but it's actually debatable whether or not that's food safe, and I wanted to make sure that I'm doing this in a way that I'm for sure confident that it is food safe. So that's why I'm going to show you this technique. So just tracing the image really carefully. So now that I have my image traced, I'm actually just going to cut this a little bit smaller so that it will fit on the cake. So I have my cake here that has been chilling in the fridge, so it's definitely firm to the touch, and that part is really important. We're going to be painting with buttercream and tacking the image on, and so we don't want to mess up any of the frosting. And I made this a light shade of pink, like a blush pink, just because I think that pink and black to me are like very Paris, and I think it looks really nice together, but you guys can do whatever color you want, of course. So I'm just going to be using some push pins to tack this onto my cake. So after I tack on my parchment paper, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to carefully cut through it with an X-Acto knife. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to leave the imprint of the silhouette onto the cake. I tried a few different techniques for this, practicing, and this was the one that I found that worked the best. So I'm just going to carefully start cutting in. And I'm not cutting too far into the cake because I really just want to get through the frosting layer, not the actual cake layer. parchment paper off, I can see that I have the outline. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna paint over this with some black food coloring, just the whole outline before I start filling it all in. So I'm just using Americolor in Super Black, and I'm gonna very carefully paint over this outline. And I'm gonna have my silhouette here as a guide, just in case there was like anything that I missed when I was tracing with the finer details. So after I have my basic outline in black, I'm going to start filling this in with some black buttercream. So basically I'm going to be using a really small spatula to paint this buttercream on. If you need a tip on how to make black buttercream, I'll make sure to put that in the show notes. But basically this is going to give it like a really artistic look. It's not meant to be completely smooth. I think this technique is really interesting. I've always really liked it. And so the cake does need to be, again, firm to the touch. And this is nice, like smooth buttercream. And I'm just gonna press it into the cake. And I know I'm not gonna probably get some of the finer details with buttercream. And so that's why I have food coloring to go paint those in as well. So this is a really small offset spatula, and I'm gonna also link this to the show notes as well. I got them on Amazon. I use them all the time, super useful. So now that I have my silhouette with the buttercream, I'm gonna go back in and touch up some of the spots with my black food coloring. So now that I have my buttercream silhouette on, I'm gonna go ahead and just clean up the cake board a little bit. So this is just a little bit of water on a paper towel. I'm gonna carefully So the very last last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add just a little bit of a buttercream border here so that it looks a little bit cleaner along the bottom. So I just have a small star tip that I'm gonna use to go around. Alright, so my painted buttercream Paris silhouette cake is done, and I love how it turned out, and I hope that my husband gets the hint and takes me to Paris. And I do hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, don't forget to like it and subscribe to my channel.